Wasabi Gangsters, it's me, Chance Dillon, here to talk to you about books. All right, let's go through my reading really quick. I actually had a pretty fantastic week. I don't have the Assassin's Blade book anymore, but I did finish it. I finished the Assassin's Blade. I'm going to give you my quick thoughts. I'm about 24 chapters into Queen of Shadows right now. Red is my favorite color. Just look at this puppy. My goodness gracious. It's actually a really cool cover. I am 24 chapters into this, enjoying it so far. Assassin's Blade kind of... It definitely didn't add to the story for me. I think like the little cool things that were featured in those stories were very, rule of cool. Like it's cool to have a lot of that stuff and to see the background and to see them referenced in this book directly. I think overall, it kind of takes away from the story a little bit. It kind of peeled away from the experience I had with the first book. I think if I had read Assassin's Blade first, then went into the first book, I might feel the same way. Because if you go back to this place, it just, without giving spoilers away, it just feels like there should have been different priorities. And I understand, like, I'm having a hard time justifying, like, I can suspend my disbelief pretty well, I think. And so for me to have a hard time justifying the train of thought going into the actions, I mean, I don't know. I think at this point she's too competent. The main character is too competent to feel that the things that occurred in Assassin's Blade wouldn't be dealt with probably sooner, especially now knowing with Queen of Shadows sort of the knowledge behind that. It just kind of took away a little bit from the overall story. I could have gone without it. If I'm being honest, I feel like maybe my experience would have been enriched if I had just like continued on without it. And then read it maybe at the end, and so I can experience it because it was cool. Like there's rule of cool stuff in there for sure, but I just think logically, like my brain just isn't able to put together the thought process behind a lot of the actions, and that I hope that doesn't take anything away from my opinion to you guys. Like I genuinely think that Sarah J. Maas is a great storyteller. I don't think that was necessary. I think that what we're getting in Queen of Shadows so far is fantastic. I really, really like where things are going, and I think sort of the mystery behind if I had took away the knowledge of what happens in Assassin's Blade to just have that sort of mystery and really brief like 1 or 2 sentence explanation as to like what went on in the past and sort of how she's operating now in the present, it would have been. Again, I feel like made a little better, and I'm slowly getting away from that. The further I am away from Assassin's Blade, so I'm like really starting to like get my seat down and buckled in, and I'm enjoying this so far. I think this and Air of Fire, of course, are my favorites so far. Queen of Shadows, it's got red. It's going to be my favorite because it's red. That's like a big part of it. Also, just the storytelling elements in this so far are very cool. Again, I know I said that a lot. I know I'm being pretty vague, but there's some cool, like, go and capture X and then rescue Y and do A, B, and Z. And that stuff is really cool to me. And what we're getting in terms of character relationships, that's another thing that I had a gripe with in the earlier books, and we're sort of here in this book. And I sense that maybe this is just where the relationship needed to go, whatever it was. And then maybe it'll come back around. I do really, really enjoy this so far, guys. I am doing the Tanner read next, I think. That'll be my next read after I finish this. Of course, I also finished, and my God, let me just talk about Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. I wish I had a physical copy here to like show you. Joe Abercrombie is such an amazing writer. It is unbelievable. Stephen Pacey, obviously an incredible narrator, obviously enriches the story on audio. I think if you want to experience the First Law universe, experiencing it on audio is as close to an audiobook can be to physically reading, just because of how it is amazing. It feels like it's just so easy to visualize everything that's going on, and it is such kudos to Joe Abercrombie and kudos to Stephen Pacey and the editors, like everybody that was a part of that team that put that story together. I'm like, my God, Joe Abercrombie is such an incredible writer. It is fantastic how in Red Country specifically we get all of the Western tropes. It's a Western fantasy and just turned up to 11. Just so awesome and epic, and it's Joe Abercrombie's fantasy isn't known for being like high magic. It's very, very low magic. It feels very grounded, like almost like an alternate past. I get that sense when I read Joe Abercrombie a lot, and obviously you throw in some of the Magi and the First Law and so on and so forth, but I really do feel like Red Country was as close to a grounded story as we got in the First Law universe so far. The heroes, obviously, of course. Actually, all of the standalones really were like that for me. My experience with the standalones was there's no way you should be reading the First Law universe, the first trilogy, last trilogy, the middle trilogy. You got to read the standalones. That is just my opinion, which I know is like kind of juxtaposing my opinion of Assassin's Blade and the prequel novella there, because I suppose that these three standalones act as prequels for the Age of Madness in some way. But Red Country, just wow. I don't want to say one of my favorite characters. I said it. So one of my favorite characters, like you find out really early that they're in it, and then you just kind of go from there. And there's even more of my favorite character. One of my favorite. There are so many of my favorite characters that Joe Abercrombie writes, which again speaks to just how fantastic of a freaking writer this guy is. It's incredible. It really, really is incredible. And I love a Western. And this is a book I had picked up, put down, and by picked up, put down, I mean like I started it, stopped it. I am so happy I finished it. I'm so happy I pushed through that first little bit. Not that there was anything wrong with the first bit. It just didn't. I guess it was just more about me being in the place to pick it up and listen to it. And man, just Red Country was such a good book. So my next read, I'm going to go post Red Country is now I'm going to start Empire of the Dawn. I'm going to finish the Empire of the Vampire trilogy. Just look at that, the Tor dust jacket. Man, love this thing. But I'm going to read Empire of the Dawn, finish the Empire of the Vampire trilogy while as I continue through my Throne of Glass journey. Yeah, Assassin's Blade didn't really add much for me. And other than that, I started Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. It's Ronald Malfi. So I think after Blackmouth, it was what I wanted to try next. I started it just like reading it on my Kindle app on my phone when I was out one day, and it's nice. It's a good story. I love Ronald Malfi's character voice, and I'm excited to see where it goes. It really just has that air of mystery to it, and that one I'm going to chip away at. I can't promise I'm going to finish that at any point. I know I still have to get to my Conan short stories. I'll probably try and just do them all at once just to get through it. I also want to get back to Elric. It's like there's so many books I got to read, but me narrowing down to a couple big primary reads for me has helped drastically, especially with my writing, which now I'm going to get to. If you've just been here for the reading, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to talk about the Mercy Saga and my writing in general. Okay, so we're at roughly 59,000 words as the recording of this video. When my newsletter from ChanceDillonAuthor.com goes out tonight, it goes out every Thursday. I put an exact word count. I do my reflections, my writing reflections. Maybe there's a tip or two in there. I don't really know. I just kind of go off what I'm feeling. Sometimes a poem, and this is one of those weeks where I was just able to kind of really sit down and channel a lot of energy into writing, and that included a song I wrote on Friday. It includes maybe a poem or two here and there. It also includes almost 10,000 words added to the third volume of the Mercy Saga, and another. Last week, I think I put it in my newsletter, but I wrote 800 some odd, now 1,000 words for just like a contemporary love story I started, and then I also have to dive back into my co-write, which is something that I'm now just remembering. Wow, this is what happens when you got a lot on your plate. But I put it there, and I like that I do that. And that co-write is something I'm very excited about. So I really, really, really do want to get back to chipping away at that project. There was just some other things higher on the priority list this week, and that's that. So Mercy Saga, third volume, really coming along, guys. Shimhack's art piece that he's doing, the two new dust jackets that we're doing for the Broken Binding special editions, the launch editions that we'll be doing with them. I posted over on my Patreon for Runeborn members a couple preview images, a couple preview briefs and color passes that Shimhack has done so far. If you are a Runeborn member, you can go and see that on my Patreon. I believe that link is also in the description below. You can join the Discord, the Book Street Boys. That's in the description below. We hang out, we chat books, we shoot the shit, we just have a good time. So that's the primary writing stuff going on this week. We also dove back into the Tears of the Fallen manuscript to prepare for the audiobook release, because I'm doing I'm touching up the first 10 chapters just to make Simon Vance's job a tad bit easier. Not changing anything massive at all, but just going in and touching up, making sure things are pretty for this sort of like traditional release, effectively, with getting into the having an audiobook publisher and then putting the effort into to get Simon Vance and create this story with me, and be a part of the creation process. list. And so I'm going through the first 10 chapters. I'll turn that into Tantor in the middle of the month. And Maxwell Earp helped tremendously with this. It's always nice to get different eyes on your stuff. I cannot say that enough. Maxwell is an incredible editor. I cannot wait to work with Maxwell on the third volume of Mercy and the Mercy Saga. Now, I know I said last time, this is just sort of just thought by thought, week by week. And so I know I said last time that I might split the Mercy Saga, the third volume of the Mercy Saga, into 2 books, which is like, it always was supposed to be a 4-book duology, right? And in that, I might have insinuated that it would be 5 books. And now I'm starting to think that how I wrote the first book, let it sit, wrote the second book, and that creates a single arc. I think with the third volume, I'm going to burn through writing the final arc instead of it just feels like where I'm at right now, the 60,000 word mark. It just sort of feels like that is going to be the natural progression. We're going to finish the book. We're going to finish the Mercy Saga as a whole. I'm leaving it open there because if I do end up splitting it and we get that, it'll be a 4th book. That'll be that. I sort of trust myself at this point now to. The reason I split that first arc is because it's so hard to the value proposition to readers is, hey, I know you've never read anything by me. Chance Dillon, this new author, here's a 350,000 word book. That sounds a little insane of a proposition to you all. That said, like that is going to be an omnibus I put together eventually. But with the third book, I feel like I'm going to be a lot more comfortable. I am going to be a lot more comfortable putting it together and finishing out the saga. And I don't want to get to a point where I'm writing the 4th book, the second part of this final arc, and feeling like I'm going to just add stuff to add stuff. And I'm not there right now. I'm not even close, which is nice. I feel like we're really getting a big expanse of the scope here. But I do feel like if I'm able to wrap up the Mercy Saga in this volume, in the third volume, that may be the only volume that releases. It'll come down to editing and hearing what the editors have to say. And if they are like, yeah, I would suggest splitting these XPOVs out and putting them into a separate book, then fine. That'll be how I do it. It'll be sort of a tandem concept that I'll approach the 3rd and 4th volume as being a single arc, just to sort of make the printing and publishing part easier. The issue is that I come across needing to release 2 books at the same time because I want you guys to be able to experience that as a whole. So we're going to cross that bridge when we get there, but I just wanted to make the readers aware of it now as we are getting there, because this is in the very beginning of the process. We're in the first third of the book still. We are just about to pass the first third, roughly, if we're at our traditional 180,000 word mark. I do think that this is going to balloon over 200 and then possibly more, 253. And if me doing a whole other book is just like coming up with 30 to 40,000 words to come up with 30 to 40,000 words, that just doesn't seem like it's going to do service to the story, and therefore I won't do it. So I'm going to see how the story unfolds. I'm letting you guys know just in advance. I do have a plan of from where the series started to where it's going to end, and so that is still top of mind. That is still a priority. There are a lot of things that I'm going to have to sort of unpack, especially even in this first draft. I'm just like sitting here right now thinking of it. There are things that I will need to go back and revisit that I've already written because they're just little details that I know need to be there that in the first draft just aren't showing up. And so the second draft and the third draft will really help me do that. And then getting into the editor process will also be super crucial into the creation of this book. All that to say that I'm trying to get you guys the most authentic version of the Mercy Saga, and that may include not forcing a 4th volume. All that to say that I will be writing a 4th book regardless. Even if that is the case, I will be writing a 4th book in the Mercy universe, separate from the saga, sort of like Age of Madness concept. You know, we're going to push it out. I know sometimes people don't like that, but there is a book that I've always wanted to write since I started creating this universe, and that one will be written, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 books. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to write that book, and so I'm just really excited. I'm just really, really freaking excited, guys. That is the writing update for this week. I'm going to go get a swim in. It's just one of those days. Hips still a little buggy. You know, I'd run outside. It's like beautiful, but I'm gonna swim, and then maybe I'll go for a walk. And clear the mind, as they say. Clear the mind. Go on a walk. Clear the mind. Yeah. Overall, guys, it's been a week. It's been 1 week. a week since the last video. All right. That's the long form. You guys can go check out Instagram for the short form. Oh, and why does he kneel? Why does he kneel every time he does these videos? That is a question that I do not have an answer for. Thank you guys for tuning in. All right. You do it every week. You do it every week.